Hey, welcome to the Photo Flunky Show, episode number 54. Our topic for today, we just kind of want to ask you, is photography hard, or do we just think it is? And welcome to the show. My name is William Beem.
Hi, my name is Lee Beem.
And we were going to talk about a number of things, and this one just kind of came up to the top of the list. But before we get to the topic of whether photography is hard or if it's just all in our heads, let me just tell you that show notes are going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 54. And of course, you can find a transcript of the show there for free, lovingly created by Lee Beem.
Lots of love.
Lots of love. And there's links to subscribe to our podcast, The Photo Flunky Show, at photoflunky.com, of all places. And of course, Lee puts those links to subscribe into the show notes. You can also find links to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest.
Yes, and if any of my links aren't working, because occasionally I've found one that just for some reason hasn't come up right, drop us a line and let us know so we can fix it.
Please do. I dropped her a line because I found some that didn't work one time.
I mean, I usually check through them, and I've occasionally just clicked on one for some reason, just that hasn't landed anywhere. So I really appreciate it. It's not criticism. It really helps me a lot.
Oh, don't worry about it. I really appreciate the fact that you take the time and put the transcript together. And I know we've got folks that have commented on it. So it's helpful. People like it.
It's worth it for somebody who likes it.
Our topic is, why does photography seem hard? I've got a lot of people I've talked to before. Some go out and they just seem to magically take photos with ease and everything looks beautiful and wonderful. And other people saying, why can't I get this shot? Why can't I do what someone else does? What do I need to get that shot?
Amy, I know.
Oh,
I know.
Okay. Lee's raising her hand. Yes, little girl to my right.
Yay! Photography is not hard. I think there are certain types of photography where there may be aspects of it that are more technical and complicated, but photography is not difficult. Those people who are going out and seemingly taking perfect photos the first time are the ones who are doing what they feel, not what they're thinking about. As soon as you start complicating things, as you solve one problem, you're going to create a few more. And you're going to probably need to keep buying gear to fix it. Gear will help you, and it's required. Certain things are required for certain things, but it's not going to solve your problems.
No, it doesn't. And I know that because I bought a lot of gear, and some gear solves some problems.
Yes.
So for example, I've got different types of lighting gear. I've got, my flash that I can put on camera or put on a stand. I've got studio lighting that I can use and with a number of different light modifiers. So those are elements of gear that are designed for different problems, whether I'm going to be on the go in a studio, how large I want my light source. I've got a number of lenses, and I didn't necessarily buy them so much because I had a problem to solve with every one of them. I really just bought them because I wanted to and I had the money. That was before I got married.
Why not? Have fun with it. I mean, it's not wrong to buy things and to play around with them. I do not think that they're going to make you a better photographer. They might help a specific type of photography. Well, they might be essential to a certain type of photography, but they're not going to make photography easier, and they're not going to help you understand anything.
I bought lenses that would solve problems for me. So for example, when I got my camera, it came with a kit lens, which was like 18 to 55 millimeter lens or something along that line. It's been so long ago since I got that first camera, I don't even remember.
Useless on a Safari.
And when I was still shooting with crop sensors back then, this is before Nikon had any full frame sensors, and they had a wonderful travel lens, which was an 18 to 200 millimeter VR lens.
I remember that
and
one.
I shot everything with that, at least until the front element of the lens fell out and cracked on the floor in San Francisco.
I remember that.
No, I hated that. But honestly, that was a good thing for me. Not at the time, because I needed it to shoot while I was in San Francisco. But it was a good thing for me because I relied upon that lens for everything. And once I got past that and I started moving up to full frame and getting different lenses that I could get different depth of field, and shallower depth of field, I started thinking differently about my photography. Rather than an all-in-one kit, I started having lenses that were for specific purposes. So I'll put a link into my page about lenses that I reviewed, but basically my 14 to 24 millimeter, my 24 to 70, which is probably my most heavily used lens when I'm doing travel, and my 70 to 200, which is my most heavily used zoom lens when I'm doing portrait photography. Yeah. And then I went off and got some prime lenses, the 24 millimeter, the 35 millimeter, and the 85 millimeter. Everybody lusted after that 85 millimeter 1.4 lens.
Yes, it's a lovely lens.
It is a lovely lens, but you know what I realized is that I'm often backing it off to f2.0 or f2.8, and I can get almost exactly the same kind of wonderful bokeh racked out at 200 millimeters on my 70-200, so I don't really call out that lens that much.
Oh, okay.
So that's an example of lusting after something that you see someone else use to make a beautiful photo and realizing you may not need it.
I think that's another thing. Sometimes we convince ourselves that photography is complicated to justify buying something that really looks good because somebody else has it. You know, a big lens, when you're a new photographer, sometimes a big lens looks impressive on a camera. I'm just giving a silly example. And I think sometimes we have a need to justify acquiring more gear.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, with the idea that I need more stuff.
Yes.
And stuff is fun and stuff is good. And I love just the smell of stuff when I open up the box.
Oh, I like new stuff.
New stuff smells delicious. Then you end up using it, and then suddenly it's no longer new anymore. Instead, it's sitting in a sock gathering dust on top of it.
Yeah, that's funny how that happens.
Kind of like the lenses I've got right to the right of me.
I'll try not bump them.
All right, so some of the reasons why I think some people believe that photography is too hard is because they get this idea that it's too complicated. You start off with the technical aspects of it, getting a handle on your exposure triangle.
Yeah.
Once you kind of get the concept that they're kind of like cantilevers, that you can move them in different directions but still get the same result.
Yes.
At least as far as the correct exposure, but different artistic ways of doing it.
I was going to say it has different effects in achieving that exposure.
Right. You could get this. You can get a correct exposure with a long shutter speed or a shallow depth of field, or a number of combinations in there. You really got 3 variables to play with.
Yes.
At least until you add flash, and then you've got 2 more variables to play with,
yes.
And that being the flash power and the distance between the flash and your subject. So you get more cantilevers to play with that way. You're thinking about all that stuff when you're new, and then you got to throw in, I also have to be artistic. I've got to compose a photo. And that kind of thing throws some people off. How do I be creative and how do I be technical at the same time?
Here's the core of the problem. We are actually trained, and we seem to train other people to overthink things. We forget the things that we've learned over years and are second nature to us. Sound overwhelming when you rattle off a list of 10 or 15 of those things to someone who's brand new to photography, and it becomes complicated. And I think the bottom line is you don't have to know everything there is to know about photography to have fun and to take some great photos. You need a camera. You may need to invest in a different lens or a piece of gear or more pieces of gear for if you're into a specific type of photography. If you're into macro shots, then you're going to want a macro lens. If you're into wildlife, you're going to want a telephoto lens. But beyond that, if you understand how to get a correct exposure, the composition and stuff, you can teach people, but you cannot teach a person to be creative. You can give suggestions, but creativity comes from within.
Well, I think that's the problem, that the people I find that are saying that photography is hard are the ones that are concentrating so much on the technical aspects of the exposure that they're forgetting about the creative aspects of how do I compose this and make this look good. In other words, let's say that you really want to isolate your subject. What's your best way of doing that? Some people are going to do that with depth of field. I do it with light sometimes.
I was going to say light works as well.
Because if I use a flash or a studio light and put that on my subject and let the rest of the background go dark, that really makes my subject pop out.
Contrasting color works.
Contrasting color works wonderfully. A lot of these decisions are really creative, and the technical aspects of them are things that you need to practice and know, and then use them when you're making your creative decision, rather than just getting so caught up in the technical minutia, I think.
Yes. I think a creative mind is going to see the world in a creative interpretation.
Well, that's where we get to, there are different types of people. Some are very technical and they can understand and apply those technical aspects. They say, I can do this and I can do that. But then you look at their photos and think, well, yeah, that's not an interesting subject.
But then those same people would probably take absolutely fantastic, product photos.
I think you've got to have a split side of you. You've got to have that artistic feel, because you can take a really perfectly correct photo that does not move you emotionally. If you're going to take a product photo, let's say that it's a bottle of wine, whiskey, or some kind of product that's, people look at and they want. You can put it on a table, take photos of it, and there you got a document of the thing.
Yes.
But if to make it look appealing, and maybe if it's something like it's a cold bottle of beer, some people like that, you want to see a little sweat drilling down.
The condensation.
And you want to see a little bit of shine inside of the bottle. I was looking, a guy on Facebook posted this recently, and in order to make sure that he had that little glow inside the bottle, he got some metallic paper and he cut out kind of in the shape of the bottle and put behind it. You couldn't see it, but then when he lit it, it reflected back. So the inside of the beer bottle, was looking lighter and the outside was darker, and it had that little bit of life to it. So I think your artistic side has to come out as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think someone else who has an absolute heyday with making the most of persuading people that it's very complicated are your manufacturers, the people who are, your retailers selling the gear and things as well. If they can convince you that you cannot be a great photographer until you have, and they're not saying it out like that, they're just saying, oh, if you want to take better than ordinary photos, which kind of implies to the person listening, well, I guess my photos are ordinary.
Well, there's a lot of that, not only with equipment, but also with post-processing. I've got some wonderful plugins and tools, and they really do help me make better photographs.
I love Lightroom.
I love Lightroom. I love my Mac Fun and On One and Topaz and a number of other things. That is kind of finishing your photo. It's enhancing what you've already captured.
Yes.
So it shouldn't, if you've got to rely upon that to make a photo interesting, I don't think you have an interesting photo to start with.
Possibly not. I mean, but like you say, you can enhance the focal point if you feel it didn't quite capture what you saw.
So when we say that I need more stuff, are we talking about gear for the camera, lighting gear, post-processing tools, or all of the above?
I think it could be anything, and that really depends on the situation. I think people find their own way to tangle themselves in a web of complication.
I was going to say she's counting.
No, my mind just went blank.
That's okay. That happens to all of us.
Complication, yeah. We sometimes make things so hard, and if you sit back and take a look at something, you know what they say. I took art. I mean, I was into my art in high school and in college. And when we were doing our paintings, you're working on large canvases. They always taught you right from young, when I started, midway through your work or when you want to check something, turn around and walk away and walk back in the room and look at it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you need to just take a step back when things feel overwhelming and say, okay, what am I really trying to do? And I think the big question is, what's stopping me?
Yeah, I think that's true. It's like, why, if you're not satisfied with your results, do you know what result you want to get? One of the things I think people do to themselves is they look at people who have been in the photography for a very long time that have achieved wonderful results, and they say, why can't my photos be like that? Well, one, it's kind of like playing guitar or playing piano. You've got to practice. You've got to keep doing it.
You build on it.
And you refine yourself. You know, the people that they're admiring have been doing this for a long time. Mm-hmm. But something else you got to keep in mind is the people that you admire are only showing their best work. I was
going to say, you develop them smart. You don't start posting your nonsense.
And I've kind of broken that mold, at least on my blog, because I will show some of my bad shots as examples of, all right, here's what I did wrong. Here's the next shot I took and how I can correct it.
It's helpful.
Yeah, I'm trying to put it out there as a lesson, and also kind of as a way to say, like, not everybody takes a perfect shot every time they go up to the camera. There are some that will have a naturally better understanding of composition and exposure and have better odds of success. But every photographer I've been around, and that includes the people who are training me at workshops. I mean, some of the nice big names that I've met, they take bad shots too.
Yeah.
They take shots that I think are fine, and then I've seen them nitpicking, say, I got a reflection or a hot spot over in this corner. I need to go back and do that. And they will look at those very minute problems and take the shot again. So in other words, they're not just walking up, bang, I got it, and I'm walking out of here and dropping the mic at the same time.
Yes.
They're stopping to craft the scene. So in other words, they're taking their time to make sure they get that shot. It's not like you walk up and, oh, there's something, I got it, and I'm done. Unless you're a sports photographer. And even the sports photographers, there's a reason why they shoot like 14 frames per second.
Yes.
They know one of those shots is going to be the one that's on the cover of the magazine or newspaper, but not all of them.
That's true. That's very true.
Part of my advice is photography may seem hard if you don't understand that other people are also having a lot of bad shots. Don't beat yourself up if you look at your results and maybe you get 5 or 6 photos that you really like out of them. That's good.
Yeah.
Because you can go out and shoot and shoot and shoot. The results aren't always going to be there. Even if I'm doing portraits, there are always tiny little things. Like maybe the expression just isn't right.
Or a shadow or a glare or something.
Yes, you start off taking portraits of someone wearing glasses, and then you get the lighting where it looks just right, because you've had a test subject in there. Then your subject sits down with glasses, and then suddenly you've got these harsh shadows on their cheek because you didn't account for the glasses.
Exactly.
Since I wear glasses, I know that's happened because when I was trying to do self-portraits a while back, it worked out that way. It's like, first thing you do is just take it easy on yourself. Photography isn't that hard, but then again, not every shot you take is going to be perfect.
It's not. And also remember that sometimes somebody can be giving you very useful advice. and it can make something feel complicated. For example, if you take somebody who's got a very logical and technical approach and understands, all the technical aspects of photography, and they're speaking to you and you've got a very creative mind. For example, people can sit and explain to me about composition. Ask me to explain composition to somebody. I really couldn't do it. I couldn't give you any advice because I don't think about composition. I feel it. I get a feel for it and it falls into place. I'm putting something together and my mind goes, my eye sees it and it goes, there.
No,
but I'm not able to break it down. And that's because our minds work differently.
Now, do you spend time looking at other people's photographs or photographs in magazines or on websites and get an idea for what you like? Or do you just have a gut feeling of what you like?
I have a gut feeling of what I like. I do look at other people's photos, but not as inspiration, as people call it. I look at people's photos because I enjoy looking at photos. That's it. And I'm sure that there are some things that somewhere in my subconscious or in my memory have stayed and had influence on what I do. Maybe I like the way that something looks, or I like a particular angle and I'll go and try something. But I don't look at people's photos for ideas.
See, I'll look at other people's photos as research, but not inspiration. Mm-hmm. To me, I think I've said this before, inspiration is something that kind of smacks you upside the head when you're not looking for it. If someone shows me something like, this is here to inspire you, that's very presumptuous to say this is going to inspire you.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if it's going to inspire me. You don't know what else I've seen. And you don't know what I like or what I want to do. But every once in a while, I'll be flipping through either online or in a magazine or a book, and I'll see a photo and thought, that gives me an idea. To me, that's inspiration when I see something I haven't seen before. And maybe it's something I've seen before, maybe it's something I haven't, but as long as I get an idea, sometimes I'll see a photo where I say, oh, look at the gels they're using on the lighting. I'm completely ignoring what the subject is and what the location is, but I like the fact that, they're using some gels on the lighting to use different colors. I may be inspired to go off and do my own shoot with a completely different look to it, but using some gels simply because I saw something out there.
Yes, but you're getting an idea, but you're also learning about a new technique or a new, maybe, and we weren't trying to suggest by any means that gear is bad or that you shouldn't be buying it. It's necessary, as is post-processing software, and none of these things are a bad thing. But I think people can make you feel like you need them.
Well, it comes back to, I hate the fact that I'm saying this again, but I'm going to say it again. It comes back to your photo as a story. And I know you don't go out for storytelling photos, mm-hmm. but I do. It's like when I look at a photo, I want to see something that kind of makes me think a little bit. And that's usually, even if it's just a portrait, just something very simple with contrasting colors. I love lately very simple kind of portraits. Yeah. I don't want too much clutter in the background. I don't want too much going on. I want to be able to see the person and look inside of, his or her soul through their eyes. And doesn't that sound kind of flighty?
Ooh, poetic.
Oh yeah, I'm really getting into my artistic flair now. But that's kind of what I'm enjoying right now. I'm really getting into interesting portraits that are simple.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that I don't want to go off sometimes, there's a bar, downtown from here that's got a wonderful pool table and lighting and kind of a dark atmosphere inside. I'd love to get a couple of models to take in there one time with a smoke machine.
That would be fun,
and some gelled lights. And that's going to be a complicated, busy scene, but I still, even though I'm interested in very simple portraits, I still like the idea for scenes like that.
Yeah.
It really depends on deciding what you want to do and then figuring out what do you need to make it happen.
Yes. I think the bottom line is don't let other people complicate things for you that are not. You probably know more than you think you know. Because if you let yourself get overwhelmed by so much input coming from all different sides, then there's conflicting advice as well. It's not even like the advice is all the same. People tell you must do this, and the next person will say you should never do that. And goodness, I think the best advice I ever read was, once you find out what the rules are, break them.
That's true. And let's take my idea of in that bar with a pool hall, and you're going to take a portrait in there. There's a nice environment, and you start thinking about, what do I need to take this shot? You can take that with a kit lens. But do you want to see every nook and cranny in the bar? Or do you maybe want to have a shallow depth of field and then have the lights in the background of the bar, kind of come up as bokeh behind your subject?
Yes.
Either way, I think, works. It's a matter of understanding what you want to present and then executing on that. And if you don't know how to have that shallow depth of field, well, that's very simple. You put it down to your lowest aperture, you take the picture. And if you're happy with the bokeh that you get, you're good. If you're not happy, then you say, you know what? I need a different piece of gear. I need a different lens that's going to get me a better defocused background.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean you have to buy it. Maybe you rent it. Maybe you borrow it. That's how you decide what kind of gear or what kind of stuff you want. Is it helping you take the photo that you want? Whereas I came up to this completely the opposite direction. I got into this and I didn't really know what photos I wanted to take. So I bought all sorts of gear and then figured out how to use it. Now that I know what I want to do and I'm much more comfortable making it happen, there's some of the gear that I've got that I really use on very rare occasions.
Yeah.
Maybe we could sell it and get Christmas presents instead.
Oh, well, let me rake through your lenses and see if there's anything I might have fun with, because I tend to enjoy the less celebrated things. I'm a bit of a strange girl.
That's not true. She takes my 24-70 all the time.
Oh, yes, I do. That's true.
You're not going after the cheap lenses.
No, but I do, something about my photography. I refuse to let anyone overcomplicate it for me. That's my pleasure. It's my wind down. I enjoy doing it. I do like to have a challenge once in a while. But for me, the beauty in photography for me is keeping it simple. And
I think that's why photography in and of itself really isn't hard. I think a lot of us are making it hard on ourselves by trying to put more stuff into it than really needs to be there to take a shot.
Yeah, for me, photography is capturing my memories the way I saw them and sharing things the way I see them.
Mm-hmm. And for me, it's kind of like with travel photography is finding a scene at the right time and having the right stuff there to take that photo. Sometimes that's meant using, brackets with HDR. So I needed a good tripod for that. And sometimes it depends upon the lens, as far how wide do I want to go? How soft do I want to go with the background, or how sharp do I want it to be?
Yes.
All those things come into it, but only after I've decided what shot I want to take. At least the way I see it, as far as simplifying things. Photography really isn't that hard. I don't even think, off-camera flash is that hard.
No, it's not. To me, it looks complicated. That's also because I haven't convinced myself that I need it.
For what you're doing, I don't think you really do. I think there are a couple of circumstances where you could use it and make things a bit more interesting, but you're mostly going to other places and shooting on the spot. Mm-hmm. So if you start suddenly setting up some lighting without having discussed it with the owner, then
they might get a little bit excited.
You might get a few looks, but you know what? If you go walk into a store and you think, I see some possibilities here, and you talk to the owner, said, look, I'd like to do this shoot and I'll give you a copy of it, then that kind of informs, do you want to use other lighting? Do you want to use gels? What do you want to do? Yeah. So all those fun things come into play. But my simple advice is photography is not hard if you don't make it hard. Thank you very much for listening to us on the Photo Flunky Show while we kind of rambled along. And I know we rambled a little bit because we've both been sick as a dog since last week.
I know. We are feeling a bit better now, though.
I'm feeling better. I wasn't sure if I was going to get an episode out this week, but I really didn't want to let anybody down. And I enjoy doing this, so that's why we've got an episode. And just in case you didn't hear it, show notes are going to be available at williambeam.com/episode 54. There's a transcript there for free. And, of course, there are going to be links to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, and other sources at photoflunky.com. We really appreciate you, and we'll see you here again next week.